Okay, hello everyone. I just wanted to share this thought really quickly. So, there is this spring, this beautiful spring not far from my house. It looks somewhat like a waterfall, and if I could have, it's really not a good signal there. Otherwise, I would have recorded it and showed it to you guys. I would have live streamed the spring, but I wasn't able to. But it is so beautiful. And as I was looking at this spring not very long ago, the thought came to, and just considering all of the surrounding in this particular area where the spring is, it was so beautiful that the thought came to my mind, Lord, this all belongs to you. You own all of this. That thought came to my mind, and I actually spoke it to the Lord. You own all of this. Now, just as I had spoken it, just as I had spoken it, I realized the significance of my words, how significant it was for me to be able to acknowledge that God owns all of this. And of course, when I thought all of this, it wasn't just the spring or just the surrounding area. I was including the thoughts came to my mind that beyond just where I was, the entire planet and everything that dwells within it and beyond it, all of heaven, all of earth, all of the universe, every angel, every demon, every human being, every bug, every insect, every bird, everything belongs to him. The best looking areas and the worst looking areas belong to him. Now, why would it be significant for me to be able to acknowledge that you own all of this? Well, because if I don't, it's possible. Otherwise, if I don't acknowledge that he owns all of this, that he owns everything, I might just begin to think that I own something, including my own life. I might begin to think that I own my own life. And of course, if I think that I own my own life, then I'll begin to think that I am free to live life according to whatever I feel, whatever I think is going to make me feel good at the moment. So, when you do realize that you're not your own, but you belong to the Lord, and that you're a steward over the life that He's giving you, then you begin to handle it in a different way. And you become, when you really believe that, you become more considerate of what it is He desires for your life. Now, you may say, well, you know what, Tiffany, that's some may say, not necessarily you, hopefully not you, but some might say, Tiffany, that's all well and good. If that's what you feel, if that's what you think, God owns you, then good for you. But as for me, I own my life. I'm my own boss. There's no God's not the boss of me, this God. And if He is, He wants me to do what He's pleased with, whatever I decide I want to do. Now listen. If you are mindful of the fact, of the truth that you belong to God, and that because you are His, you need to submit to what He wants you to do with His life. As you're faithful and submitting to what He wants you to do with your life, then He's going to grant you greater rewards and greater measures of freedom to be able to make certain choices without Him telling you do this or do that. So there's some people who have been very, very faithful in their commitment to the Lord and in their obedience to the Lord and submission to the Lord. And He has granted them this measure of reward, whereas and this measure of liberty and freedom, where there are others who, for whatever reason, has not submitted unto the Lord at that level. Maybe they just aren't disciplined enough yet. Maybe they need more grace from the Lord. Maybe they're bound by spirits and need to seek the Lord for greater measures of freedom from demonic oppression. Or maybe they're just lazy, and even though they know what God is expecting, they just don't have the motivation to actually follow through with what He is expecting. Or maybe they just didn't know. Whatever the reason, there are some people who, because of their measure of obedience and surrendering to the Lord, they get this measure of reward. You can't see that in the screen, but pretend like you can see my hands. And this measure of freedom, where other people, most professing believers, only experience this measure of reward and this measure of freedom because they need to push a little harder to get more of God's grace to be who He's calling them to be. But if you happen to be one of those people who are just like, you know what, Tiffany, I'm my own boss. Okay, you know, if you want to believe that, if you want to submit, if you want to think you need to do all of that to please your God, then fine. But I'm my own boss, and that's okay. You are allowed to adopt that perspective. You're allowed to adopt that perspective. Be your own boss lady, or whatever people are saying. You want to be the boss, you can act like the boss. But while you're acting like the boss, just know that the person who really owns your life, the true owner of your life, is going to have to make a decision about what to do with you. He's going to have to consider, what do I do with this person? Because they're not responding the way I need them to respond. They're not accomplishing. They're not being beneficial in accomplishing of the plans that need to be accomplished. They're not being beneficial in the expanding of my kingdom. There are some real matters that need to be addressed, and they're not being very beneficial in addressing these matters or accomplishing the goals that I'm looking to accomplish. So God has to consider, when you decide to be your own boss, He has to consider what He's going to do with you. What is He going to do with you? The real boss has to decide what to do with you. And so consider a remote control. There's a illustration that a brother in the Lord uses often that is very profound. Consider you having a remote control, and it may even have your name inscribed on it, Tiffany Dillon, or what, I don't know, Sarita Williams, I don't know. But consider having a remote control, and every time you know, this remote control was designed for a specific purpose. It was designed to do some things. And when you try to use it for its purpose, every time you try to turn the television to channel 2, it goes to channel 78. Every time you try to turn the volume down, it goes to channel 15. Every time you try to turn the TV off, it blasts the volume. You're going to get frustrated. You're going to get frustrated with this remote control, and you're going to think this thing is dysfunctional. It doesn't do what it's supposed to do. I need it to do this, and it wants to do its own thing. It wants to do that. This thing is broken. You might even want to bang on it a little bit. Maybe it'll bang it into place. I don't know why we think if we hit something it'll start working, but you might be provoked to just hit the remote control just to get it to operate the way it's supposed to operate. But if it doesn't start to act right, you realize that this thing is useless to you. And what are you going to do? You're going to throw it away. You're going to throw it in the trash. And if you're anything like me, I might still have some hope for it. I'll keep it, but I'm going to put it away. I'll put it away in my, TV stand. And out of sight, out of mind. I'm not thinking about it. I don't really care about it because it doesn't do what I need it to do. I might not throw it away right away, but let it stay around. My kids might get to it and use it as a toy or as a hammer. Maybe they'll ask me, can I play with this? And I don't care about it because it's of no use to me. So yes, you can do whatever you want with it. I don't care. It doesn't do anything for me. But eventually, when I'm ready to get rid of all the clutter, I'm going to throw it in the trash. I'm going to throw it in the trash, and the trash people do whatever the trash people do with it. Usually they destroy it. And so consider our place before the Lord. He's created us with purpose, but we're deciding to do our own thing. He wants us to go right and we're going to go left. He wants us to look up and we want to look down. He wants us to look down, we look up. He wants us to be serious, and we take everything as a joke. He wants us to laugh and we want to complain. We want to go about doing things that he's not even instructed us to do because we just think it's a good idea to do it. We think it's beneficial. We may actually be of some use to somebody, but not to the one who determines what to do with you. You're not being used for the purpose for which you were designed. And so God has to consider that this person is useless to me because they won't act in accordance to their design, to the plans that I have for what I own. What I own is not working. And so he discards it. That's what he does with people. That's what he does with people. And so we have to consider that, if we choose to be our own boss, we're positioning ourselves to be discarded. But if we can recognize that we're owned by the Lord, we're positioning ourselves for great reward instead of a great destruction and suffering and being ignored by the Lord, being ignored by God. The thing is, we have to reconsider what it means to be owned by the Lord, for us to belong to him. It's not a bad thing. It's not a demotion. It's not a disgrace or an insult. It's an honor to be owned by the King, by the God of all creation, by the God of all things. During a time when there were more earthly kings and queens, when there were more kings and queens and princes and princesses. I know that still exists to some extent, but nothing like what it was at a certain period of time. But when that still existed, in a more prevalent form, it was an honor to have some kind of position in the kingdom, to be able to say that you were something in the kingdom, even if you were just the food taster or the sweeper or the cook or the nose picker. I don't know. Just if you pick the king's nose for him so he doesn't get his fingers dirty. To have some position, some royal position in the kingdom was an honor. Now consider that God is not looking for us to just be his servants in his kingdom. He wants to make us sons and daughters. He wants to make us his children in the kingdom. He wants us to be beyond anything that we could try to make ourselves to be without him and outside of fellowship and obedience to him, outside of submission to him. We think it's something to be the owner of a company. We think it's something to, some of you kind of understand that. Some in the world understands that there's a benefit just being part of something that seems royal to some degree. If you were to get a job at Google, or your mom would be bragging, my son works at Google, or I don't know, some Harvard, or if you were just a maintenance guy at Harvard, a maintenance person at Harvard, your parents probably would be bragging that your son works at Harvard. So there's some understanding that to be associated, to have the name of something that is highly esteemed on you gives you great value and great esteem. And that's just considering the worldly kingdoms that really aren't that great, really aren't that big, a small business or a big business, or is nothing compared to being co-owner, being in line to inherit the world because it belongs to your father, being in line to inherit the universe and all the powers thereof and all the glory of it. And that glory rests on you when you go about life. That the glory and that power and that wealth, you carry that because you're in the lineage of God, because you carry the name of Christ, the King. There's a benefit to belonging to the Lord. So I want to encourage you that the next time you open your eyes and look at anything, if you're looking at your phone right now, at your computer screen, it does not belong to you. The Lord can do what he wants with it when he wants with it. He allows you to have that. He allows you to have some measure of ability to acquire some things. That's the goodness of the Lord. And when you look at something, when you look at someone, when you feel the wind, when you see any area on this earth, I don't care how good or bad it looks, it belongs to the Lord. And once and consider that you are his. And in considering that, now we have decisions to make in our day. We are obligated. We're not obligated because you have the ability to choose not to submit to the truth, and incur and run into whatever comes your way as a consequence of not living according to the truth. But when you embrace the truth, you have a decision to embrace the truth. And in embracing the truth, you're going to have to make a decision about seeking the Lord for what his desire is, if you want to see the rewards and the benefits of being a son of God. Okay, I'm going to stop here.